What's the difference between sensationalism and sensational? The answer is the truth. Director Paul Verhoeven doesn't seek sensationalism. Sensationalism is defined as creating great public interest and excitement at the expense of accuracy, or the truth. Verhoeven's films could more accurately be described as sensational. They engage the audience on a guts level through his visceral and energetic visual style, but also through the use of satire and a desire to show us everything. They do not avert our eyes from the truth, providing great insight not only into the human mind, but into society as a whole, all wrapped up in a highly entertaining package.
Dan ook een hele zinnige vraag stellen aan Paul en zijn consort. Ik zou wel eens willen vragen of hij het roze driehoekje wat mijn vriend net aan hem heeft gegeven, of hij dat eens een keertje op wil doen en naar die film van hem gaan met een liefst nichterig uitziend type. En dan eens kijken wat er gebeurt aan het eind van deze film, die eigenlijk een soort een enorme reclamespot is voor agressie en onderdrukking. Eens kijken wat er nou gebeurt, kijken wat voor gevoel hij daarbij krijgt.
Nou, laten we nou staan. Ja. Kom maar mee.
Ja.
Ga jij er naartoe? Ja. Met mij? Ja. Nu dadelijk? Ja. Dat is prima. 9:30.
Never one to shy away from controversy, his graphic depictions of sex and violence in his earlier dramatic films, such as Turkish Delight, Katie Tipple, and Spetters, would scare up as much controversy in his native Holland as his even more graphic American films. Verhoeven's movies are action-packed explorations of America's corporate greed, nationalism, and identity, as well as the commodification and ownership of the body at the expense of the mind. And where Robocop and Basic Instinct have been well received, his later films, such as Showgirls and Starship Troopers, have been far more divisive, perhaps for being too close to the bone in their critique and observations of American culture. Of all of Verhoeven's movies, however, perhaps his biggest crowd pleaser came in the form of his mind-bending sci-fi action movie, Total Recall.
How real does it seem?
As real as any memory in your head.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
No, I'm telling you, Doug, your brain will not know the difference. And that's guaranteed, or your money back.
Set in 2084, Total Recall stars action legend Arnold Schwarzenegger as Douglas Quaid. Quaid is haunted with dreams of living on Mars. He sees it as an escape from his boring life as a construction worker. He longs for a life of adventure and finds it in the form of a service called Recall, a company that can implant your memories and experiences into the human mind in order to create a virtual and very lifelike experience. In the case of Quaid, however, the implant goes wrong and awakens memories of a former life as a secret agent on Mars, shattering not only his sense of reality, but also his true identity. His new identity brings complications. In pursuit of Quaid is an agency that need his mind erased before he gets to the truth and destroys their control over Mars. Total Recall is a fast-paced pursuit that expertly blurs the line between fantasy, memory, and reality, immersing the audience and Quaid into a quest to find the truth. The 1980s were an era dominated by big movies. The summer blockbuster had become a solid fixture in the release schedule, delivering hit after hit year after year. Spectacle and escapism was at the heart of these crowd-pleasing movies, and as the movies grew bigger in size, so did the movie's stars. Muscle-bound action men flooded the screens, and no one was bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger and his body became the embodification of 80s excess. Built like a comic book hero, his larger-than-life physique made him a perfect fit for the fantasy and sci-fi classics on which he built his name, such as Conan the Barbarian, The Running Man, Predator, and of course the Terminator. His epic proportions would also complement the over-the-top nature of movies such as Commando and Red Heat.
Yeah! Stick around.
Arnie would dominate the box office. Armed with big biceps and one-liners, he became almost like an 80s interpretation of James Bond, which would become more apparent in 1994's True Lies, directed by his Terminator collaborator James Cameron. But, in many ways, Total Recall would be Arnie's first foray into the spy genre, albeit an existential postmodern version which would be typical of the source material from which it originates, written by the visionary author Philip K. Dick.
How can it not know what it is?
We began to recognize in them strange obsession. After all, they are emotionally inexperienced with only a few years in which to store up the experiences which you and I take for granted. If we gift them with the past, we create a cushion or pillow for their emotions, and consequently we can control them better.
Memories. You're talking about memories.
Philip K. Dick was a prolific science fiction writer. In the space of 30 years, starting from the 50s, he wrote countless novels and short stories that have provided an unlimited well of inspiration, not only to generations of sci-fi fans, but also to Hollywood studios. Following the success of Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, there have been dozens of movie adaptations of his trippy, futuristic stories, including Screamers, Imposter, Minority Report, Paycheck, A Scanner Darkly, Next, and The Adjustment Bureau. Some of these adaptations have been more successful than others, but regardless of this, Dick's recurring themes of false memories, advanced technology, confused identity, and alternate realities, all wrapped up in a pulpy satirical package, is perfectly compatible with Verhoeven's style of filmmaking, most notably in RoboCop. It's this alignment of Dick and Verhoeven that arguably makes Total Recall the best adaptation of Dick's work, visualizing one of his biggest obsessions, which is losing touch with what is real and getting lost in the hyperreal.
You are a top operative, back under deep cover on your most important mission. People are trying to kill you left and right. You meet this beautiful, exotic woman.
Go on.
I don't want to spoil it for you, Doug, but you rest assured, by the time the trip is over, you get the girl, kill the bad guys, and save the entire planet. Now you tell me, isn't that worth a measly 300 credits?
Sociologist Jean Baudrillard first coined the term hyperreality to describe a state in which reality is experienced as a copy of something that was never real in the first place. It has no origin or is imagined. The concept of hyperreality would evolve to suggest that the human mind would no longer be able to distinguish reality from a simulation, especially in technologically advanced societies.
If I'm not me, who the hell am I?
It's me.
What makes Total Recall such an interesting film to revisit is trying to unlock what's real. If we take what we see on face value, Total Recall is simply the story of Douglas Quaid becoming involved in a tale of espionage after his past memories are awoken, after his implant doesn't take. The other interpretation is that everything we've watched is his manufactured fantasy, courtesy of Recall. Verhoeven has stated that both are real and that both realities exist at the same time, and he depicts this by using imitations and duality as well as simulacrum to add to the ambiguity of what's real. Duality is used as a visual and thematic motif to show not only the two realities, but also the splintering of Quaid's mind. Examples include the two moons of Mars, a mention of two-headed monsters, two screens in the vehicles, the mutant psychic Quato, who lives on a human body, whose name is from the Spanish word cuate, which means twin, suggesting two lives in one. The word cuate also sounds like Quaid, suggesting Quaid's dual existence.
You are not you. You're me. No shit.
Verhoeven carefully constructs a metaphorical and literal hall of mirrors, where no one can be trusted, and authenticity slowly slips away. Quaid is shown looking at mirrors, trying to figure out who he is and where the illusion ends and reality begins. However, as Baudrillard states, if we look at the technologically advanced world of Total Recall, there are many examples of simulacrum and imitations of reality that are so close to their so-called originals that we no longer know what's true. A television screen becomes a beautiful landscape, a human-like android drives taxis, and holograms replace people on several occasions. Doug creates holograms of himself to elude his pursuers, not only confusing them, but the audience as well.
You think this is the real Quaid? It is.
Just like Quaid, we're not sure who or what to believe. On many occasions, he's betrayed by people he thought he could trust. Once his cover is blown, his work colleague Harry tries to kill him, and Benny, the friendly taxi driver, ends up being an undercover agent working for his captors. The most duplicitous character, however, is Quaid's wife Laurie, played by Sharon Stone, who it turns out is not his wife at all, but another agent assigned to make sure he doesn't remember his past. She is a literal distraction, trying to confuse him from what's real, as she alternates between being his lover or his enemy.
If you don't trust me, you can tie me up.
I didn't know you're so kinky.
Maybe it's time you found out.
Clever girl. Laurie, don't you understand? I feel like I was meant for something more than this. I want to do something with my life. I want to be somebody.
You are somebody. You're the man I love.
As Quaid gets swept up in the adventure, we realise that false or real, he's acting out his fantasy. In stark contrast to the working stiff we see him depicted as in the beginning. He becomes a one-man army who will save the people of Mars from an evil corporation.
There's people here.
Ultimately, Quaid's inability to understand what is real is because what he's experiencing and what we're all seeing all stems from fantasy. Let's not forget, he's never been to Mars, he's only dreamt of it, and his new love interest Milena is the literal embodiment of the hyperreal as she originates from a dream. But if Mars and Milena represent something that doesn't exist, they're just copies of copies. In the end, Quaid's journey is almost one of denial. He's not battling to save Mars, he's battling to save his fantasies, to escape his boring existence. In an earlier scene, we see that he's offered a red pill, which will return him back to reality, but he refuses it. He rejects reality by spitting out the pill.
I just had a terrible thought. What if this is a dream?
Well, then kiss me quick before you wake up.
In the closing scene, Quaid has saved the planet and got the woman of his dreams, and as the blue skies appear on Mars, we realise that Quaid is happy to live in a world of fantasy and excitement, where he's the centre of attention, willfully blind to the truth. So that's my take on Total Recall. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
A man is defined by his actions, not his memories. Now open your mind to me, please.